If you haven't heard, the next roster update in MLB The Show 22 is being pushed back 1 week. What could this mean for this next roster update? Well, once a year, every year, we get a defensive attribute update here in MLB The Show. Last year, that was right after the All-Star break, right at the end of July, somewhere around that July 30th mark, we had that defensive roster update in MLB The Show 21. Now, with this 3-week period leading into the All-Star break, could this next update be the defensive roster update that we've been looking forward to all year long? It is quite possible, and even if it's not, beginning to get in on some of these guys now for when that defensive update hits could be massive. So today we're going to go over a lot of names that have been playing really good defensively this year above their attributes. Now again, this is only defense that we're talking about today. Not going to talk about any offensive attributes, how players are playing offensively, or any pitchers at all. As always, y'all want to get early access to videos just like these, consider becoming a channel member. Supports me as a full-time creator. You can get early access to these videos at Step Squad level 2 or higher. Get in before the market goes crazy on some of these cards. And if y'all are enjoying this video, please be sure to take a second and like the video. It goes a long way to helping out the video reach more people and support me as well. Let's go ahead. We got a handful of names to talk about in this one. Let's hop in it and see what we got. He's most likely going to be the starter at catcher for the American League in the All-Star game, and he's possibly looking at becoming a diamond here soon in MLB The Show 22. First guy we got here, KIRK. He already has that cracked out hitting, 84, 88, 54, 57. Definitely some room to grow there on the power side of things. But that 57 fielding, 68 arm, 56 accuracy, 63 reaction, and 55 block holds back KIRK quite a bit. But when you take a look at some of the advanced defensive metrics, all of my numbers today are grabbed from FanGraphs, taking a look at the entire season year to date. So if you're wondering where I got anything from, these are all from FanGraphs. He has 7 defensive run save. That is good for the second best defensive run save from catcher. We're going to be using a lot of defensive run save and outs above average today. To my knowledge, I believe SES puts quite a bit of weight onto those two statistics when deciding fielding attribute changes. KIRK has also had an 8.0 defensive value so far this year. That positive value, that puts him 5th across the board for catchers. And when you compare that to a guy with 57 fielding, 68 arm, there is definitely some much needed attribute upgrades there. Obviously, KIRK kind of blowing up onto the scene this year. So not surprising that his defense is a little bit undervalued here on his card. I expect to see a pretty firm correction with that when we get that defensive update, and a +5 up into the diamond tier. It's totally possible. If anything, he could even be looking at a little bit higher going into that as well if he gets some offensive upgrades along with that too. +5 definitely possible for KIRK. Chilling right now, 608 stubs on the cell now. Really like him in line for some big upgrades at a catcher position where defense is weighted quite heavily, which that is important. Defense is weighted differently at every position. For example, we're not going to talk about any first baseman today because defensive ratings at first base almost have 0 impact on the overall of a player. It's almost all offensive based. So no first baseman in this video, but we have a lot more names to get through. Next guy we got here, somewhat surprisingly, TREVOR Story arguably has been the best defensive second baseman in the league so far this year. He has really been thriving with that change from shortstop into second base. 78 fielding is pretty solid, but some room to grow there. 61 arm, 60 accuracy, and 79 reaction. Definitely some room to grow on that front, sitting at a 78 overall right now. 8 defensive runs saved is good for second best second baseman, and then 7 outs above average is good for the second best second baseman as well. Now, in terms of his UZR, which really kind of impacts the range and kind of showcases how many balls a player is able to get to, he hasn't been as good there, so possibly that reaction not moving there, but his fielding, his arm, and his accuracy, definitely some possibilities to move up there. TREVOR Story sitting at 78 overall right now. Been kind of hit or miss offensively this year, but a solid defensive upgrade for him could put him firmly into that gold tier. Chilling at 154 subs right now. So a very cheap barrier to entry for a guy like TREVOR Story. Definitely has some potential to get some solid moves there. Second base, weights defensive fairly heavily, so definitely going to be pretty impactful on us overall. Next guy we got here, Gleyber Torres, certainly has not been the best defensive player in the league, but yeah, take a look at his defensive attributes right now. 42 fielding, 42 accuracy, 42 reaction. That is basically like as low as they're going to go on a live series player. He has very, very, very bad defensive attributes with already pretty solid offensive attributes on this card. But when you take a look at how Gleyber has done defensively this year, we can see 7 defensive runs saved is good for 4th amongst second basemen. 2 outs above average puts him at 14th, right around that league average mark. Definitely not great by any stretch of the matter, but for a guy with 42 fielding, 42 accuracy, and 42 reaction, there is so much room to grow there. If we're going to say that 60 is that league average mark, even if his fielding, accuracy, and reaction all went up to 60 overall, and he got a plus 18 to each of those, we would see an incredibly large jump in Gleyber Torres's overall. Just so much room to grow there on his fielding attributes as a whole. And by virtue of him simply not being an absolutely god-awful defender this year, he's definitely warranting a massive jump there. A plus 10, that's not gonna happen, but even like a plus 7, a plus 6, I wouldn't put any of those out of the equation. Maybe can mix that in with some offensive upgrades as well, as Gleyber has been playing really well overall this year. I'd say probably Gleyber is going to be the guy that we're going to see the biggest overall jump from whenever that defensive update hits, just based off how low his defense is, how much room it has to grow, and how well he's been playing defensively this year, comparatively speaking. Take a look at his price. 88 stubs on the sell now. Still a really low barrier to entry. Gleyber, super overlooked player this year, really doing well for that Yankees team. Next guy up here, we have Astros shortstop, probably the rookie of the year as of right now in the American League, Jeremy Pena. 74 fielding, 68 arm, 72 accuracy, 77 reaction. Pretty basic fielding stats across the board. We like to see a lot of the times with rookies, they'll be a little bit lower overall because we just don't know really how they're going to field at the major league level. Well, Jeremy Pena, 9 defensive runs saved, is 3rd amongst shortstops. 6 outs above average, is 7th amongst shortstops as well. So 79 overall, probably still in line for some more offensive upgrades, and he gets that little fielding bump. Suddenly he's pushing into that mid-gold territory where he can start possibly even knocking on the door of an outside diamond opportunity. Definitely deserving here of some significant fielding upgrades. 294 right now on the sell now, so a little bit higher for a silver, but under what we would see as an 80 overall quick sell gold value. So as long as he can break into that gold tier, you are making stubs right here at 294. Anything past that, that's pure profit. Next up here, we have Dansby Swanson. He's cooled off a little bit defensively from where he was at one point, looking like one of the better defensive shortstops in the National League so far this year, but cooled off ever so slightly, still playing really good defense, and that bat has been hot recently as well. Definitely a possibility to get some offensive upgrades, but defensively, 70 fielding and 54 arm, those are really opportunities to grow that 85 accuracy, 71 reaction. Probably pretty fair numbers there, but that fielding and arm, definitely some opportunities there, especially 3 defensive runs saved. That's going to put him at 15th, right around that league average marks, but 6 outs above average puts him at 6th amongst shortstops in the MLB so far this year. So between those two, definitely some room to grow with a little bit of offensive push as well. Can help Dansby possibly be knocking on the door of becoming a diamond player. He's been playing super well this year, been really solid defensively. He's due for some moves there. Take a look at his price, 1,000 stubs. It is expensive. He's over the price even of what an 82 overall quick sell would be, so it's a bit of a tough barrier to entry right now. But if at any point Dansby dips down a little bit, he can definitely become worth at that point. And even still, a +3 for Dansby with a fielding upgrade, definitely within the realm of possibilities. Next up here, we have Max Kepler. He's lacking a little bit offensively at just a 78 overall, but his defense has some significant room to grow. He's been one of the better defensive outfielders so far this year. 78 fielding, 77 arm, 62 accuracy, 82 reaction. Amongst right fielders, his 8 outs above average rank 1st amongst those right fielders. It is 4 defensive runs saved. It does put him down at 9th, but we could see some slight room to grow there. Maybe he can creep up into that gold tier at 130 stubs as well. That's really why I like Max Kepler 130. A lot of ability to make a solid ROI there. If he just gets even that +2 into that gold tier, definitely not a lock by any stretch of the matter. For sure, some better plays that we've covered in this video, but Kepler, I like the ability for him, the possibility of him maybe just creeping back up into that gold tier that he's already been a few times this year. Next up here, we have Hunter Renfroe. Now, he is hurt right now. He hadn't played since June 22nd. So could that mean that they don't end up adjusting his fielding? It is quite possible. It's also possible that if the next roster update isn't the fielding attribute upgrade, that Hunter Renfroe is returning before that fielding upgrade happens. And when you look defensively amongst outfielders, Hunter Renfroe has been one of the best. Obviously, his arm, 95 rating there. He's been showing off the cannon again this year. That's not going to go anywhere, but 74 fielding, 79 accuracy, 78 reaction, his 10 defensive runs saved, second amongst all outfielders, and his 4.6 UZR, definitely showing that he's covering a lot of ground out there in the outfield. That is second amongst right fielders. So definitely some room to grow on that fielding, specifically with those 10 defensive runs saved. Even missing time, he's put together some elite defense. Accuracy, reaction, some possible moves there at an 83 overall. Just needs a +2 to get up to diamond. Could a little bump in fielding possibly get him there? It is definitely doable. Not to mention if he comes back and starts hitting well. In addition to all that, looking like a play of a guy who could certainly creep into the diamond level, currently right at that quick sell value of 1,200 subs. So risk-free investment right here with Hunter Renfroe. Next up here, we got Teoscar Hernandez. I think he's due for some offensive upgrades in a significant fashion, but defensively, he can move up as well, specifically with his arm strength, possibly a little bit of accuracy as well. His 2.8 arm rating, according to Fangraphs, is first amongst right fielders in the outfield so far across the league this season. So definitely in line possibly to see that 76 arm go up a little bit. Now, -2 outs above average, -1 defensive run saved. His 61 reaction, 61 fielding. That is probably just going to stay where it is. But if he can mix a bump in his arm strength with a bump to his contact and power versus right, Teoscar Hernandez is a guy that is suddenly knocking on the door of being a high diamond, pushing into that gold tier, sitting right at quick sell value right now. Quick sell to the T, 600 subs a piece. You can be picking up Teoscar at the time recording this video at least. So really, really like that play. I see an arm upgrade for him and some offensive upgrades to go along with that. Final guy we are talking about today, it is Julio Rodriguez. He is heating up in a massive way. And defensively, he could get some upgrades. 5 outs above average, puts him 14th amongst outfielders, which, considering how many outfielders are, that is pretty high up there. Now, his 1 defensive run save, not going to be elite there. And his -1.8 arm rating, according to Fangraphs, maybe that 92 arm strength comes down ever so slightly. But with how Julio Rodriguez is playing, he's definitely in line for some significant offensive upgrades. Maybe SDS is wanting to push Julio into that diamond tier with how insane he's been recently, and his defensive ratings could be a way to help him get there. 64 fielding, 62 accuracy, 63 reaction. Lots of room to grow across those 3 ratings. And he's certainly been a solid center fielder defensively this year. Much better than what those attributes say. Look at his price wise, 1,000 stubs. So he is very expensive. He's selling for a higher overall quick sell than what we'd see from an 82 overall gold. So he needs a +4 just to be at your profit range, which can be a little tough to happen, but certainly not outside of the possibilities at all. Plus, that hype is going to continue to roll on him as long as he's playing like that. I don't hate Julio Rodriguez personally. Going to be passing on him at this current price, but if I see him dip down at any point, I will be looking to get out on him at that time. So that is what I have here. Those are guys I'm looking at defensively for when that defensive roster update does come. It's going to be coming at some point, whether it's the next update, the one after that, maybe even after that. Who knows? We do know, though, we will be getting it at some point in time. We've had it pretty consistently for the last 3 to 4 or so years, maybe even longer than that. It has been a pretty consistent staple of roster updates here on MLB The Show. So we know it's going to be coming. It's just a matter of what impacts will happen. Those are 9 guys that I like right now who I think are outperforming what their ratings are by a significant margin. As always, though, y'all hit me up down in the comment section below who has been elite defensively this year that I'm overlooking and need some upgrades on their cards. Love chatting roster updates with each and every one of y'all. As always, until next time, definitely be sure to leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch y'all around.